This is another one of these movies that came a little bit out of nowhere for me. But when I see a good poster and Hugo Weaving, I'm in. And I looked it up, but I don't think I've seen anything by the director or the writers before. Except I knew I recognized the name PJ Dillon for some reason. I didn't know from where though. She's one of the writers. Turns out she's been a cinematographer on Game of Thrones since like 2012. But that's a pretty interesting transition. Cinematographer to writer, but the writing is good, so kudos. She had some help though. I think there's 3 or 4 writers on this thing. Anyway, the story itself takes place in Ireland during the Great Famine that wiped out, I don't remember exactly how many people, but a lot of them. Some of them just moved to America too, but a lot of them died. But the crops just kept failing, and the English didn't exactly handle the situation very well either. So death ensued. A lot of death. I mean, it pretty much decimated the whole country, especially the poor parts, farmers and the like, which understandably made some people a little bit upset. So they decided to cause a bit of trouble. Hugo Weaving plays a hardened old-timer, an Englishman who's seen his fair share of things in life, and he's sent to deal with the situation over there, along with this young blowhard, played by a guy called Freddie Fox, and no, not the rapper, some pale white guy, and he's good too, by the way. But what made this thing a little bit interesting is that I'm not sure if Hugo is the main character, or if it's actually the Irishman, played by James Frecheville. Frecheville. Because the movie follows both of them, but I think it's actually Hugo who's the main guy. Even though you kinda root for the Irishman, you know, the underdog, all that. It's a interesting setup, but the whole thing kinda plays out like a western. It really feels like one, and I liked it a lot. It's a very simple and effective movie. It gets right down to business, doesn't try anything elaborate, very straightforward. It's not in a hurry, it just goes along at a steady pace. And it doesn't drag and it didn't bore me. But if I were to nitpick, and in the interest of filling the air here, I'm gonna, there are a few things I could complain about. Some of the CGI isn't great, there's not a lot of it, but some of it looked a little bit weak. And I doubt they had much of a budget, so I'll let that slide. And there's one sequence near the end that for some reason felt a little bit drawn out. Which, ironically, is by far the most action-packed and elaborate sequence in the whole movie. But because the action usually lasts a couple of seconds in this movie, it kinda messed with the pacing. So we get this sequence that kinda ties a lot of threads together, and there's a lot going on in it, but I just didn't care that much for it. I mean, it's not super long or anything. It just wasn't as tight as the rest of the movie. But even that sequence had some really good stuff in it. As I said, it's pretty much nitpicking. But the thing is, I don't have a lot to say about this movie. It's gritty, it's pretty bleak, but it's very intriguing and well made. It held my attention, and it felt pretty damn satisfying to watch. And the acting is great. I also wanted to mention Stephen Ray, who played the local guide. He's great. But as a whole, I like the movie quite a bit. It's simple, effective, barely any nonsense, and it's just like an hour 40 long. And it's got Hugo Weaving, so what's not to like? So would I recommend it? Yeah, I feel like this one's probably gonna slip through the cracks for a lot of people. But it's worth checking out, so go watch it. Or don't, I'm not your dad.